What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about if the new Batman game should have changed combat. So we haven't really, I normally start off by saying like we talked a little bit about this. I haven't really talked about this at all, and I would say over the last, really since I've started this, I wouldn't even say over the last little while. I have seen, I've noticed it maybe a little bit more over the last little while, but really ever since I've started making these videos, there's always been kind of a reoccurring thing that you guys have talked about in the comments of the combat. Are we in need of like a complete vast overhaul of the actual combat? And I have made videos where I've talked about that my viewpoint on the combat is I like it. I think it's very solid. Obviously, a lot of games have tried to copy it. Some games literally have taken people that worked on it and had them do it. Even the Middle-earth games, right? Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War, I believe they had the person who created it help them on make their own kind of version of it. But we've seen it done time and time again. Assassin's Creed is kind of a weird style of it, but the Middle-earth games, Spider-Man, there are plenty of games that copy Batman's combat. And the question is, with it being a soft reboot or whatever kind of game you want to consider it, here's the deal. I guess here's one of the biggest points too. I think you'd have a better time saying, or I think you'd be able to say more that you feel confident that they would change the combat system if it's a full-on reboot, like it's Batman, it's not Arkham anymore, it's completely something new. Then I would say your chances are a little bit higher. But even then, I'll tell you my own personal I've been right, I've been wrong. You guys can stand where you want to stand on trusting me. Or, obviously, I think a lot of people just come to hear what I have to say. I don't think they are listening to every single word and just storing and saying, I'm believing every word. I think a lot of people just want to hear what my opinions are on a specific topic. So let me give you mine on this. I personally believe no matter what the game is, if it's a Batman game, if it's a Batman Arkham game, I think the combat is going to stay relatively the same. I truly, truly do. I really don't see the combat changing for any, like maybe Rocksteady's game, like if it's a Justice League game, maybe they do something different. But even if they do, I feel like, well, if you have that's an interesting question though. If you have a Justice League game and Batman's in it, does it have the Batman fighting style to it? So you could ask that question. But then if it's like Flash and Superman, is there different like fighting techniques for them? Like, is it different fighting? And like, do they have multiple engines, like an engine for each character that they're doing? The Superman game, right? If there's this rumored Superman game is real, is that the same kind of fighting? So I would give you that maybe these future games won't have the exact same fighting style. I will give you that. I think that you are probably right. And I would say, and here's the deal. I'm not saying I don't want it. I think it's good. I think what we have is fine. I actually really enjoyed it. I have very fond memories of doing like the challenges, and especially Arkham Asylum, because I got that game. It happened at the end of August, right? I had just started school, like the next week I was about to start school, but I remember like listening to music. I'd have it in my ear. I had the CD player, and I would listen to music, Green Day to be specific, and I would just play after I had beaten the game. I would just play the challenges and try and get as high of like a combo streak as I possibly could, and all those. I did really, really good. I was very, very good at it, and I have really fond memories of doing it. So I enjoy the combat. I like where the combat's going. We've talked about that. We talked about, hey, they need to do combat changes. Some of you guys have pointed out, like when I talked about the whole Spider-Man thing, that I think environments need to affect the enemies. Enemies need to affect the other enemies. That if you like hit one into the other, and people were saying, well, they were doing that in Arkham Knight there, and I completely forgot that was a thing. But yeah, you're right. There was that kind of mechanic, and when it comes to like what I want from this game, I would like more of that. I would like it to be more like Spider-Man, which, to Batman's credit, Spider-Man took a lot of that from Batman. It's kind of like the natural progression. So, where I stand on things is I will not throw a temper tantrum. I will not be upset I could talk about it when we finally get to see the game, when we see the combat. I'm sure we'll have talks on the combat and basically everything about it, like is it improved enough, and so many more conversations. But there'll be those to have, but I don't think I will take the side of being like, man, I really wish it was something different, especially because I don't know what style they could do to make it better. I don't know. You guys could pitch it to me. I would love to hear your pitches too in the comments. But like from what I can visualize, I don't know what other fighting style or what fighting style in general they would do instead of it that would be like vastly better. Now I've seen people, and even I have said, like traversal, there's a lot of things I think they need to improve upon with that. Maybe making him a little bit quicker on his feet. Like I get it, he's more of like a heavier kind of type, but to have again like that whole Spider-Man just being quicker and being able to do more rolls and all sorts of things, but being able to like run on rooftops and people had suggested for a long time like taking the gliding and doing something different with that. Plus, if you have the Bat family, they're not all gonna have gliding, right? So maybe you have to do something different, having different vehicle types. So like I'm not opposed. In fact, I'm a fan of those. So when it comes to like traversal, I would agree. I think there are some major changes need to be made. I think detective mode is another one that I've said in the past, and we can make a video for all these things in the future, but combat has just never been one that I've like, and again, like when we see it, if it's the same thing and we can tell like, oh, there's obvious improvements, like they've made strides to make it even better, I don't think you will see me, maybe, I don't know, I won't guarantee it, but I don't think you will see me like say, man, it kind of looks lame, kind of looks boring. I wish they would have done something. I mean, maybe we'll think like, I wonder what it could be. But again, until like it just sucks because maybe if we see Rocksteady's game at the same time and their combat is completely different, and then we're like, man, I wonder how this Batman game would have worked if it had that fighting style. That is where we could have that conversation. But until we see a game like Batman that does it, because what are our other comparables, right? All the Arkham games, Spider-Man, there's not really many, like there's Iron Man, but like if you want to look for like superhero games, there's Marvel's Avengers, but Marvel's Avengers is a very, very different fighting style that I'll be honest with you, I talked about my worry with that game. I'm not a huge fan of how the fighting looks in that game. It looks very repetitive, doesn't look all that detailed. Again, looks okay, like looks like you can have some fun in it, but I wouldn't sign up. Like if that was the new fighting style for Batman, I think I will honestly say I feel like it's a downgrade. I don't think it's awful. I don't think the combat's awful. I think I'm going to have fun with Avengers in terms of like literally playing it, like moving them around and doing combat. I think it'll be fine, but I think compared to what we have, and again, everybody's opinion's different, I really like the combat of Batman. I think it's fluid. I think it's fast and kind of cartoony in Batman's own way, right? Because he can jump from like he can go like 30 feet if you want to keep that combo going, right? Like he can recognize that, but like using his gadgets, and it's a little bit more grounded, and definitely started out way more grounded than like say Spider-Man, right? So like I like it. I like how it is. I've always enjoyed trying to get the combos. You could say like with the enemies, how they're just kind of all, I think games in general need to find a way to fix that, right? Like the Assassin's Creed, Spider-Man, Batman kind of thing, where there's a group of enemies, but they all take their turns. Batman started, the last one started to introduce, hey, what if here's a crazy idea, and Assassin's Creed has done it for a little while too, right? Here's a crazy idea. What if two enemies attack you at once? And again, like Assassin's Creed started doing that too, I think, right? Like Brotherhood could have been like the first game they did that. I think Assassin's Creed 2 is still one at a time, although that could have been when they changed it as well. But, things like that, there are obvious improvements that need to be made. There are flaws in the fighting. I'm not saying that it's a perfect fighting mechanic, that the combat is just perfect, but I think what we have is really good. I think you can still make improvements to it and make it even better. And I don't know, until I see, like with my own eyes, something that is like super grabbing, that's a comparable. And again, I really think if we get Rocksteady's game, or if we get the Superman game, like if we see them at the same time, then we can be like, oh, I like what this studio's doing with Superman. I wonder, could they have done it with Batman? Could Warner Bros. Montreal have done it with Batman? And that's where we could have the discussion of like, yeah, maybe. I'm not throwing it out. I mean, you're right. Ultimately, if you guys have like the idea of like, hey, you should constantly be looking for ways to better something, right? I completely agree. It's not necessarily a thing where if it's not broke, don't fix it. Like it's not. I mean, I guess it is that like. Look, there's other things that they need to focus on. And ultimately, that's one of the other things is, hey, in my opinion, combat is very low on the list of things that need to be turned around when it comes to Batman. I think people's expectations and what we're literally expecting from this game, what we want to see, the things we want done with this game, from characters, from story, from environment, from world building, from all, I mean, you could go on and you could probably list, I'd say, 10 to 15 major things before you get to, hey, hey, let's talk about those fighting mechanics. Let's talk about the combat real fast, because I'm not sure if I think it could be better, but yet it's solid. But you know what I mean? Like, so I would have that conversation. I just think, like, look, Warner Bros. Montreal can only do so many things, obviously, and we're at a point now where it's like the combat's good. Arkham Origins combat was awesome too. I mean, there was no problems with it. So it is, in my opinion, kind of a situation where, like, hey, it's not even where it's not broken, so you don't fix it, but it's actually very good. I think a majority of people would say it's at least good. So if it's good, do you throw it out and kind of risk it with another brand new thing that could be better, but it also could be just worse, and you'd also take a lot of time in making it? I don't know. I mean, that's up for Warner Bros. Montreal to decide, but obviously we'll be able to see it in action whenever we see gameplay of this game. I'm sure we'll see him fighting people. I think that would be an obvious thing to show. So we will eventually see it. This is not a question that will never be answered. It's something that I think we'll see relatively soon. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Do you think the combat of this game needs changing? Do you think that it's fine and should stay the same? What should be added to it to make it a little bit better? Let me know in the comments below your thoughts. Again, different kind of video. I'm enjoying making these kind of videos. Again, make sure you guys are supporting these by liking it, by commenting, sharing, all of that stuff. Make sure you guys are subscribed and have that bell icon rung, and I will see you guys on the next Batman video.